everything we offer at All About Wraps. Contact us today to see what we can do for your team. Give us a call, 410-903-3302. Email us at allaboutraps@hotmail.com and visit us on Facebook at All About Wraps.
Time to get this cranked up on Short Track America.
Dirt or pavement, from east to west. Short Track America features some of the biggest grassroots races around the country. Super late models to street stock racing. If it's on a half mile or smaller track, it's on Short Track America. On MAV TV, Motorsports Network.
This is Finish Line.
Good morning. Coming up on 10 minutes to the hour of 12 noon, high noon as they say in the Old West. Wesley Outland back here with you. Welcome back to Finish Line, a division of Fox Sports Radio, Community Radio Network, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, iTunes Radio, Tuned In, Spreaker, and now on Spotify as well. Had a great interview with NASCAR Cup Series driver Corey LaJoie. Speaking of the NASCAR Cup Series, they're going to be in action up in Michigan this weekend for the Pure Michigan 400. That will be at Michigan International Speedway. The NASCAR Gander Outdoor Truck Series, however, will be to the bottom of the U.S. in Texas at Texas Motor Speedway, headlined also with the NTT Data IndyCar Series as they've come off their big race in Indianapolis, won by Simon Pagenaud, and then, of course, the twin races at Detroit. They get ready for Texas. That'll be on Saturday night. The Truck Series will be in action on Friday. You can catch those events, of course, on FS1 and our Fox Sports family of networks. Broadcast coverage will be on the Motor Racing Network and Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90. We're getting ready to go back to the phone lines now, and we are getting ready to speak to the driver of the car number 51 entry, talking about his big win at Bristol Motor Speedway. We're going to shout it up and talk with this man, this young man who, controversial at times. I like that, though. He speaks his mind. Of course, a lot of people will always remember him for his unforgettable temper and his displayment to some crew people at the Snowball Derby. He has been into some controversial wrecks over the years, but he's a racer. He is a racer. He will race you clean. If you race him clean, he's competitive. He knows how to get it done. We're going to go to the phone lines, and he's a good friend of mine, somebody that I've known for the last 5 years that is just truly climbing the ladder. He got the biggest win, probably, I would say, of his racing career this past Saturday at Bristol Motor Speedway in the third running of the Short Track U.S. Nationals, which, by the way, all highlights and coverage is available as a subscriber on the Speed 51 network, speed51.com. I had the privilege of being the play-by-play announcer for that event, along with Alex Hayne, David McGee of Bristol Speedway. Steven Nasty is in the house. Nasty. How cool was it to win at Bristol, baby?
Man, it was definitely awesome. Definitely tops my win list, and the way we did it was just special in its own way.
I was going to say, I thought that that's what happened, that this was actually this was the biggest win of your career. So, again, big kudos to you, my friend. Definitely.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Like I said, feels really good, and to do it the way we did it at a place like Bristol, makes it even more special, not only, for me, but for my family as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, don't go anywhere. We're going to let everybody on Finish Line, and, of course, you yourself take a break and reminisce and listen to the last 8 laps of this race right before you ran down Casey Roderick. We're going to talk about the rivalry between you and Casey Roderick, what happened at Speed Fest, going into Bristol. You respected one another, raced each other clean. You passed him clean. We're going to talk about that. This is courtesy of our folks at Speed 51 TV, who I work with. And, again, we're going to have more with Steven Nasty in a moment, but let's take a trip down last Saturday night. Happened.
Nasty's got to get there first. That advantage is down to less than 0.4 of a second, and it even gets tighter that time off of turn number 4.
He's coming, and so is the laps coming to an end as well.
93 laps have been completed. This time by 94 laps will be put in the history books.
Out in front, that driver. 6 remaining. Now make it 5 to go when they come to the line this time by. And still leading is Casey Roderick. And now Brock and Wallace battle.
Josh Brock in the 4th spot. Stephen Wallace is 3rd. Even though he's going to bring that car home in one piece, I think Stephen's going to be disappointed with a podium finish.
Here comes Nasty.
Nasty gives him
he got
little bit of
into
the bumper.
him.
He'll go to the inside, and Nasty back to the point.
Up the racetrack went Roderick. Roderick now getting by a lap car as well. New lead change with 4 laps to go at Bristol. It's going to be Stephen Nasty. Nasty now is pulling away, but he's loose as he hits the backstretch. 3 remaining back to turn 1.
Stephen Nasty, your leader. He led from 3 to 30, had issues, had to go to the back of the pack, had to make his way back up through the field. Can he get to victory lane? Looks like he's pulling away from Roderick, but here's the next battle on the racetrack.
Best battle there.
The 66 of Wallace, the 17 of Brock.
Wallace and Brock battling there inside the 3rd and 4th position, but meanwhile, it is Nasty coming to the line. White flag in the air. 1 more lap to go. The driver from Pinellas Park, Florida, waited for the moment to strike on Casey Roderick. No crashing each other. And he will race him clean coming out of turn number 4. The biggest win of his career. It will be Stephen Nasty winning here at Bristol. Does it still sound as sweet as it was just about 5 days ago, Stephen?
Oh, yeah. It definitely still makes me, gives me the chills. Getting any kind of win makes you feel good, but like I've said multiple times, doing it at Bristol, it just makes it that much better with all the history around that place.
And I'm going to tell you something, my friend. It was a long, long day at Bristol. That was a long Saturday. My goodness.
Oh, man, trust me, I know. I wish the shows could work. The problem was just so many street stops and things like that, and that's cool. It's great. They get a big showing for the fans, but I know the fans just don't like it as much as we don't like it. Sitting there all day, kind of waiting. But I think it paid off for everybody at the end of the night.
It was definitely. Talk about what happened between you and Casey Roderick at Speedfest in January. Hard to believe that was 6 months ago. We're halfway through the year now, and what was going through your mind as you were running down Casey at Bristol Saturday night?
It was tough. Like you said, about 6 months ago, we got into it. That was many moons ago, so it's tough for me to remember exactly how it went down.
Gotcha.
But I remember him, crowd a little bit, and I didn't like it. And, he ended up getting the short end of the stick after I nudged him and got him up out of my way. I think another car got by him or so. So he wasn't happy about that. But since then, we talked. I think me and him both made it clear that we got a mutual respect for each other. Obviously I was nervous leading down to those last few laps, it's not only because I had Casey in front of me, just I felt like time was winding down, and I didn't know if I'd be able to get it done. But thankfully, he ran me clean. He slipped up. He didn't really have much of a choice, I know we were catching that lap car, but it was about 10 car lengths for that lap car. He had slipped up. I think that was the biggest opportunity I had, so I had to take it at that point.
Absolutely, definitely. And again, you raced him clean. Let's recap Bristol. You had some problems in the race early going, and then you began a sprint of running down, going through the field, if you will, just like Mike Skinner did in the Pro Late Model CRA Jegs All-Star race. You did the same thing in this tri-sanctioned, ARCA CRA Super Series, Southern Super Series, and Cars Tour Trifecta Series event. Talk about what happened with the car coming from the tail and rallying all the way to the front. And actually, you kind of did it with precise time. You didn't really just go from quickly there. Like from lap 11 to 35, Mike Skinner went from the rear to the front. You waited till about 8 laps to go to pounce for the lead on Roderick.
Yeah, that really wasn't by choice. It was just, I think the guys in my race, obviously we're a little bit better compared to, the guys that Mike was racing against. I think he obviously had the class of the field, and I believe we did too, but, I think that in his case he was a little bit better than us, and that's why he made it work faster. But, it was a crazy day. We had actually in practice, really the craziness started. We went out for a mock run, and on the last lap, I just felt like my tire was going down, and the car got really wicked tight, kind of got out of control. So I pulled it in right away, and of course we had a left rear flat. So that was almost bad. We almost wrecked the car there. But then to go into the race, I'm sure everybody obviously knows about all the loose wheel trouble I've been having, not only from the Derby, but then again at the Rattler. And it all seems to be brought back down to that left rear wheel. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the problem is, but I don't blame it on my guys at all. I know they wanted it as bad as I did that weekend, and it would have done nothing but made it worse if I would have just gotten mad at them. So at the point where I knew the wheel was loose, I told them, look, we just need to come in, and, we got a good enough car to make it back through in plenty of time. So that's actually what we did, and it worked out for everybody.
How do you feel about the Snowball Derby now having no live pit stops, especially after the shenanigans you went through last year?
Oh, of course, I think it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love the live pit stops as far as just the action of doing it. I didn't always like the outcome of it, but I did enjoy doing it. It's something that we didn't get to do all that much. I've been fortunate enough. I ran the Hooters Pro Cup Series, stuff like that. So, I was fortunate enough to do quite a bit of it in my career. So it wasn't necessarily a bad thing coming down to it. I never really messed up too much on pit road. It's just, it wasn't only me. 75, 80% of the field didn't know what they were getting for a pit crew because they don't have, cup connections like a lot of the guys do. So I think it's going to be awesome. It doesn't bring in everybody that wasn't coming because obviously the tire costs are still up, but it definitely takes off, a good anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000 for that weekend to go and do that race. So I think that's big for a lot of teams.
Question is this, and this is something we talked about on the Morning Bull Ring as well with Bob Dillner and Dylan Smith and myself when I made it in there. I kind of overslept on Monday. That's how tired Bristol made me. But real quickly, the schedule for the Short Track Nationals, the schedule for racing events in general, do you think the tracks or the sanctioning bodies need to look at condensing the schedule, so to speak, less practice, to not make it so tiresome, so long, grueling days at the racetrack, kind of like what you see at the dirt tracks? I mean, you go to the dirt track, you start at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and, you try to be done by 12, 1 o'clock in the morning if you're lucky at that. I think if you don't run a 4-hour show, you're in trouble. And that was one of the things I got to say. I was kind of disappointed in that. I figured a 5 o'clock start time, 4 classes of racing, man, we should be done by 9:30, 10 o'clock. But like you said, there was a lot of cars and there was a lot of destruction. The tracks and sanctioning bodies of asphalt racing need to look at trying to find a way to condense their schedule?
Well, for sure. I mean, the biggest thing and the simplest thing I think that would fix a lot of it is the compact cars and the street stocks should have ran on Friday night, and the supers and the pros should run on the race day. And that's how, you go to Winchester. For instance, Winchester runs all the smaller classes days leading up to the big race, and the big race,
Right.
It's set sailing. But the problem is when you try to do them all at the same time, everybody has to practice together. They were giving us 20-minute time practices, they said, but the street stocks were getting like 40 minutes because they had 100 cars out there, which is understandable. It takes a lot to move those cars in and out of the track. Not everybody can park inside the track. So, even that takes 15, 20 minutes just to move all those cars. So the best thing for them to do on the smaller cars or the smaller classes the day before, and that way you can break up everybody's practice because, we could have ran the morning and then been done by 2 o'clock with our practices and everything, and then all the street stocks and the compacts could have had the whole rest of the afternoon to practice till 5, 6 o'clock, whatever. There'd be 4 or 5 hours in there, and then 7 o'clock be ready to go racing, and you get the fans that day a good show. They only have to come in 5 to 9 or whatever, but instead you want to start all these other races the same day. It just makes it tough.
Yeah, and I can hear the displeasure in your voice as well. I mean, it actually is. I mean, even as somebody that was on the broadcast side of things, being lead announcer, we did 8 hours of coverage for practice on Friday, and I got